Following what some consider Donald Trump's surprising win, there was increased focus on his silent voters, the voters who helped him claim victory. Asra Nomani is a Muslim, an immigrant, a woman, a longtime liberal, and she voted for Donald Trump. In an op-ed for the Washington Post, she explains, writing in part, "This is my confession and explanation. I, a 51-year-old, a Muslim, and immigrant woman of color, am one of those silent voters for Donald Trump. And I'm not a bigot, racist, chauvinist, or white supremacist, as Trump voters are being called, nor part of some white lash." Asra is in our Washington bureau. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
If you could just begin by telling us, why did you think it was important to make your vote for Donald Trump public?
Well, you know, for the many months now, I've been watching this caricature being made of the Trump voter. And I'm also a native of West Virginia. My state went for Donald Trump. And I have to say that those people in West Virginia, my neighbors, are good people. You know, the idea that they are just uneducated, ignorant people voting for a president that they don't understand really violated my values as a progressive. I wanted to come forward, demystify the stereotypes, and humanize our electorate so that we could come left and right onto a middle path and really understand each other's humanity.
You made 2 points in your article: that you felt President Obama's domestic policies didn't help you personally, and that you are more concerned about Islamic extremism than Donald Trump's rhetoric. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. You know, beyond being a journalist and a citizen of this country, I'm a mother. I have a 14-year-old boy. I'm raising him on my own. I don't work for one employer so that I can be around to help to raise him properly. And I don't have health insurance. I tried very hard to afford the Obamacare program, but I couldn't. So I busted my knee some weeks ago running up to the election and couldn't slip into the Obamacare program again because the open entry was over. Mortgage refinancing was impossible. I even tried Elizabeth Warren's Consumer Protection Board to try to get advocacy for myself. It didn't go anywhere. And then finally, as a Muslim reform advocate, I wanted for the Obama administration to take on the Islam in Islamic State, the Islam in Islamic extremism. But all of these special interest groups from Qatar and Saudi Arabia to the United States made it so that we never dealt directly with this issue. We just did a tap dance. Donald Trump offered a pathway, which I grant everyone who is his critic is not subtle or nuanced, but I hope that in office he will have the middle path also as a solution.
What's been the reaction, Asra, since your story was public, was made public?
Yeah, you know, I said that I wasn't part of a white lash, but what I have discovered is that there is also a liberal lash. And it is my fellow liberals, many of them, who are very understanding and very compassionate to a choice that they didn't make, but many others on the far left who consider me a traitor, people who are from within the American progressive community and the American Muslim community. I've been told that I should be summoned to the gates of hell, called a traitor and a betrayer. But ultimately, what I'm really most emboldened by is that I have an in-basket of deplorables. Fellow Americans who also kept silent, kept secret. Just yesterday, I got an email from a woman. She's a liberal, she's lesbian, living in South Florida, and her subject line was simply, "Me too," with an exclamation point. She too had voted for Donald Trump. And I feel like we need to all connect on all sides of the aisle.
The last question I have for you, Asra: Steve Bannon has been tapped as a chief strategist and senior counselor for Donald Trump. He's been called racist, anti-Semitic, a white nationalist. Breitbart, the site which he runs, has been called a home for the so-called alt-right. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that unfortunately what is emerging is this battle of identity politics. So while Steve Bannon represents this alt-right that is frightening to many people, there is also in our country an alt-left that shuts down debate. And I believe my community in the alt-left polarizes the debate further by refusing to acknowledge some very difficult realities related to immigration, refugees, Islamic extremism. And so I call upon everyone from the far right to the far left to come on this middle path and refuse the extremism for our country, because ultimately it's going to require our moral courage to navigate this country forward with compassion and real humanity.
Hopefully there can be some thoughtful discussions in the months ahead. Asra Nomani, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.